So today, we're going to dive into a poem that feels like it could have been written yesterday. It's called Ballad of the Blinds. And wow, is it a powerful look at how sincere faith can get twisted, how leaders can manipulate people, and how entire systems can be built on lies. Let's get right into it.
You know, the poem doesn't start with anger or judgment. Instead, it kicks off with this really powerful image of pure sincerity. You see people who are clearly vulnerable. They're literally on their knees on rocky ground, and they're genuinely searching for something real, for something to believe in. This isn't about them being foolish. It's about a deep, universal human need.
And right there, that desperate search for meaning, for some kind of liberation, that is the very foundation this entire story is built on. It's the perfect, fertile ground for exploitation to start taking root.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, right? The poem zooms in, focusing on the most devoted ones, the people who don't just show up for a day, but who stay. Those tears in their eyes, that tells you everything. It shows this massive emotional and spiritual investment, which makes them the most hopeful, but also, sadly, the most exposed to what's coming next.
So when you have this kind of deep spiritual hunger out in the open, guess who shows up? The poem introduces this whole cast of characters who see all that desperation not as something to help, but as a golden opportunity to exploit.
And here they are. It's not just one type of con artist, it's a whole ecosystem of them. You've got your self-proclaimed saints, these charismatic cult leaders the poem calls mad kings, and even folks you might trust, like priests and ritual men, who are just selling fake devotion. The poem lumps them all together and calls them, quite simply, a gang of thieves.
Okay, this line right here, it's absolutely crucial. It shows this isn't just some passive trickery going on. No, this is the active, deliberate construction of power. They build their own cults of personality, making themselves kings over their followers, all built on a foundation of total illusion.
So what's their main tactic? Their playbook? It's pretty simple, actually. They take life's biggest, most complicated questions, its riddles, and they offer up these super simple, easy-to-swallow answers, especially to the people who are struggling the most. And that creates this powerful dependency. I mean, if someone seems to have all the answers you've been looking for, you're just going to keep coming back for more. So you might be asking, how did these guys get so powerful?
Well, the poem is super clear about this. They don't do it alone. They operate in a system with powerful enablers who basically blast their message out to the world and make them seem legit. And boom, here's a perfect example. The media plays a huge role. While the poem sees them for what they are, a gang of thieves, the media slaps a different label on them, Great Enlightened Ones. That public stamp of approval gives them this cloak of respectability, and it's a shortcut to trust that pulls in even more followers.
What you end up with is this chilling cycle of corruption. It works like this. First, the deceivers get a huge following. Then, the ignorant rulers see that and use that influence to get elected. And once they're in power, what do? They protect the very system of deception that helped them win. It just feeds itself over and over again.
But what happens when the whole scam falls apart? Does the whole thing come crashing down? Is there any justice? Well, according to the poem, nope, not really. When the lies finally get exposed, the deceivers don't face any real consequences. They just disappear. They crawl back into the shadows, wait for everyone to forget, and then pop up later to start a new con.
All right, so let's talk about the real-world fallout from all this, because this isn't some abstract idea. This system has a devastatingly real and very, very high human cost. People get hurt, badly.
And the destruction starts right at home at the most personal level you can imagine. The poem is blunt. Homes are destroyed. The family unit, the very bedrock of society, gets torn apart by all this blind devotion.
And from the family unit, the decay just spreads outward like a disease. It's not just individual homes anymore. Entire communities, whole villages start to collapse under the weight of the delusion.
And then, the poem hits you with the ultimate price, in the most graphic way possible. The societal breakdown is so total that it leads to widespread death. This horrifying image just shows you exactly how high the stakes are. And this right here is maybe the most mind-bending part of the whole thing. The disconnect from reality is just staggering. In the middle of all this chaos, ruined homes, collapsed towns, actual dead bodies, some of the followers are still shouting praises, giving credit to a lifeless statue for saving them. The delusion has become more real to them than reality itself.
It gets so twisted that society's moral compass just completely breaks. Everything gets turned upside down. The people who should be condemned, actual murderers,
are instead being celebrated. They're honored, treated like heroes.
Okay, but after all that darkness, the poem doesn't just leave us there in despair. It pivots. It turns its sharp critique into one final direct challenge that's aimed not just at the people in the story, but, at all of us.
You get this line, and it's like a sliver of light. A new year. That always means a chance for a fresh start. A moment where change is actually possible. Even in a crowd that's been described as totally ignorant and blind, there's still the possibility of a new day.
And there it is. That's how it ends. The poem just turns the whole thing around and puts the question right to us. It forces us to look at our own world, our own leaders, and our own beliefs, and it asks a very simple, very provocative question. Is this the year we finally have the courage to open our eyes and stop following the mad?